Hi everyone, I hope you're well. My name is Tejuja and welcome back to my Booktube channel. If you're new here, I like to write book reviews on Instagram and I also take time to review them here verbally on my YouTube channel. So please feel free to subscribe, and also there will be a lot of book haul videos and vlogs and review videos as well as book recommendation videos, etc. if you're here and planning to stay. Without further ado, I want to talk about 12 books that I succumbed and ended up buying or getting from publishers over the last few weeks. These are books that have been on my radar for a while and they were on my wish list, and I happened to see them in a lot of places on Instagram as well as Booktube, and yes, these platforms made me buy these books. And I have no regrets because they're all extremely interesting, extremely up my street, and they definitely are things that I'm really interested in wanting to learn about. And so let's get started introducing you to these books. The first book I have here is Artefact by Arlene Heyman. This book was sent to me by Bloomsbury, and this is actually a proof copy. The actual book does not look like this. This is about a woman who is kind of interested in working in a lab, and she's into biology and things like that, and she really wants to research things, but instead she sort of feels tied down. She finds herself in a marriage in her early 20s, and then she's got a kid. And because she has the kid, she's unable to spend as much time as she likes working in the lab that she's so passionate about. So it's about her figuring out how to sort of overcome this challenge and to also still be able to pursue her passion. And she's a brilliant person, and she's living in a Midwest town called Sleeping Bay, and her name is Lottie Kristen. She's interested in carrying out dissections, but at the same time stuff happens, life happens, and she has to figure out ways to be able to do them despite everything that's going on. So this is this book, and I'm really interested in seeing how this story goes. And yeah, going to the next book here, gave in and ended up buying Romantic Outlaws by Charlotte Gordon, which has again been on my radar for the longest time. So this is what it looks like. It's a 650 page book. This is written in such good detail. I'm going to come up with a full-fledged review shortly on the channel, so stay tuned for that. This is basically about Mary Wollstonecraft, who was a political thinker and philosopher back in the 18th century, late 1700s. She gives birth to Mary Shelley, who ends up writing Frankenstein later on in life. So this is about the two of them and how each of them had ways in which they would rebel against society, and they never really followed societal norms, never really believed in marriage, never really did what was expected of women back in the day. They were rebels and they were outlaws. So this book has an interesting format where the one chapter is about Mary Wollstonecraft and the next chapter is about her daughter, and it keeps shifting timelines. It keeps going into how contrasting and yet similar both their lives were. I'm currently reading this and I'm really enjoying it, but I will come back with a full review shortly, so stay tuned for that. The next book I have here is Songbirds by Christie Lefteri, which was again sent to me by the kind people over at HarperCollins. This is about a woman named Nisha who is kind of put into a situation where she is taking care of somebody's daughter, but at the same time she also has her own daughter to take care of. So she's a paid help and she's working in someone's house, but at the same time her husband is separated from her, and his job is to be a poacher and shoot songbirds, which are birds that are found in the North African continent. So will they be reunited? And she lives in Cyprus, which is actually the hometown of the author. It's only her mistress Petra who is interested in Nisha, and so is this person who had been her lover, Yanis. So it's up to them to find Nisha and help her out or see what happens. So it sounds interesting. I'm looking forward to reading this. I will report back with my thoughts. The next book I have here is for fans of The Unlikely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry. This book is called The Lovesong of Queenie, Miss Queenie Henessey. And Miss Queenie Henessey is the person Harold Fry decides to undertake the pilgrimage for in the first place, in the first book. This is definitely a sequel, so it's recommended that you've read the first book before reading this. Miss Queenie Henessey is terminally ill. She's in hospice, and she comes to know that Harold is undertaking a big pilgrimage just to make sure that he gets to her. And her doubts are that will she be there by the time he comes to her. So she decides to somehow, she's not able to speak, but she might be able to write. So she decides to write him letters explaining the full truth and an entire story of what actually happened in their past. What's it that makes them such good friends, and what is it that makes their bond so strong? and their relationship and the story itself so poignant. So this is what this book is about, and I'm excited to read this because I thoroughly enjoyed Likely Pilgrimage of Harold Fry, and this book also sounds really wholesome, so I'm looking forward to reading it. So many books today. The next book I have here is Lust for Life. It has a gorgeous cover of a self-portrait of Vincent van Gogh. I'm a huge Van Gogh fan, and I even have one of his paintings here in my room as a poster. I have also had the chance and privilege to have visited Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, which is absolutely beautiful and worth visiting in one's lifetime. And I was able to take in a lot of his paintings, but I also am extremely curious about his early life and his career and all of that. And this is a fictional retelling of Van Gogh's career and life. It's also told in a very interesting way because Irving is a really good storyteller, I think. I'm definitely looking forward to reading this, and it being historical fiction, it's totally up my street. So enough said. Also, take a minute and just admire this cover. The next book I have here is Suna You Know by Vivek Tejuja. So Vivek is actually a person on Instagram, and I follow him there. And he wrote this book and published it, I think, around a couple of years ago. And this is again about the coming out experience of someone who realized they were gay at the age of 8 and who lives in India and was influenced by Bollywood movies and other things that were happening in pop culture back in the day, and also just about identity and self-expression and figuring it out. So I'm really looking forward to reading this, and I will report back with my thoughts. The next book I have here is a book about witches. I've always wanted to buy this. This is called The Penguin Book of Witches, and again I saw a lot of people reading this and talking about this on Instagram. This is a collection of historical accounts, historical texts where, you know, allusions to witches were made back in the day. Right from newspaper accounts to actual research papers or historical events being recorded either in Europe or USA. So it kind of is a combination of all of that. Different accounts, like look at this. Warrant for the apprehension of Rachel Clinton with summons for witnesses and officers return. Tuesday, March 29th, 1692. Don't mind the accent, but it's really interesting. I've always been curious about witchcraft and witches, and I want to know where it all began, which is why I've decided to pick this up soon. Next book I have here is Being Mortal by Atul Gawande. So I recently read a book, a medical memoir. Look at me, I can't even remember the name of the memoir. But yeah, I read When Breath Becomes Air by Paul Kalanithi, and that was really enjoyable for me. And now this was recommended to me by my father-in-law, who also enjoys reading, and we share books all the time. So he said this is a must-read, and I am picking this up because I'm interested in knowing about this doctor and what he has to say. So Atul Gawande says doctors need to think about how to make patients make peace with death and sort of, you know, understand it. So should doctors be trained to prepare people to die rather than simply be kept alive as long as possible? I think it has to do a little with mercy killing and, you know, the whole debate on that. I mean, but that's just what I think. So I'll get back to you on what this book is really about shortly. But I'm excited to read this because it's so critically acclaimed, I hear. The next book I have here is actually my pick for Women in Translation Month, which happens to be right now. So all of August is actually Women in Translation Month. So this is a book called Flights by Olga Tokarczuk, and it's translated by Jennifer Croft. So in this book, we get to see travel from a different perspective. It's all about, it's a Fitzcarraldo edition, which means it's going to be very good for people who love literary books. Alright, there's a lot of descriptions here and a lot of stories. It's actually a collection of short stories about different experiences and different things that happened in the course of journey and in the course of travel and different kind of things. So let me read the blurb a little. Flights is a novel about travel in the 21st century and human anatomy, approaching life, death, motion and migration. So, and it's got a lot of different stories, and I don't want to talk about it yet because I haven't read it, but I did start reading it, and there are so many beautiful lines worth underlining. There were a lot of metaphorical lines and it was very poetic. So I'm looking forward to finishing this, and I'll report back with my thoughts. The book that I have here is Passing by Nella Larsen. This is the classic that inspired the book The Vanishing Halves. Vanishing Halves is based on this book. So this is about two sisters, one of whom is married. The man whom she married is white, and he has no idea about her African American heritage. She's actually African American, but she passes off as a white person. because she decides that that's the best course of action, and she feels that she doesn't want to have to bring along the baggage of being a black person. Then she meets another person, Irene. So Irene is somebody who's black, and she moves around as a black person, identifies as black. Then Claire starts to feel, oh my god, why did I do this? So it investigates a lot of issues about racial identity and what it really means, why people did the things they did back in the day, and the whole historical context. But I'm really looking forward to reading this. The next book I have here is Possession by A.S. Byatt. It's a big one. It's a really big one, and Possession is a work of wit and romance, at once a literary detective novel and a triumphant love story. It is a tale of a pair of young scholars investigating the lives of two Victorian poets. Following a trail of letters, journals and poems, they uncover a web of passion, deceit and tragedy, and their quest becomes a battle against time. I love dark academia, and I'm getting major dark academia vibes. Being somebody who really enjoyed The Secret History by Donna Tartt, I really think this book is for me. So I have picked it up, and I will report back with my thoughts. And final book on my list was another book that was bought after looking at reviews on YouTube and after seeing many YouTubers gush about it. This is again non-fiction. It turns out that my reading is taking a turn for the better, and I seem to be really inclined towards reading non-fiction these days more so than fiction. I just love the kind of intellectual stimulation, and just still continuing my studies in some way or the other, enhancing my knowledge is just something I really enjoy doing while I also work, a corporate job. It's just, yeah. I'm just rambling now, but I bought Entangled Life by, check out this name. Can there be a more wizardry name out there? No, Merlin Sheldrake, alright? So yeah, he is really passionate about mushrooms, and you've got to listen to part of the blog. Okay, so neither plant nor animal, mushrooms are found throughout the earth, the air and our bodies. They can be microscopic, yet also account for the largest organisms ever recorded. So apparently mushrooms have a lot of benefits. Their psychedelic properties have said to give people better mental health. They also have this worldwide web system where they help other plants, other things in the ecosystem, sort of a communication network between mushrooms and the ecosystem of plants. Mushrooms are also known to survive in conditions of nuclear energy. Also, they have the ability to digest plastic, explosives, pesticides and crude oil. They were there before us, and they can probably exist out of space just like that. That's what this book says. It's really incredible, and I just want to be mind blown. And I know it's got 5-star reviews all over on Goodreads, and that's really hard to get. So I'm pretty sure that this is going to be a worth it read for me, and I'm going to report back on my thoughts with this one. I'm super excited to read this and enhance my knowledge about mushrooms. Alright, so that was the wonderful melange of books that I've got lined up for the rest of the year that I'm planning to read. Let's hope I get through them all, and let's hope that YouTube and Bookstagram don't throw at me more interesting titles and books that pique my curiosity, and then I end up inevitably going and buying them. I hope you're safe and you're having a good reading month. Let me know what you're currently reading in the comments below. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and also give it a thumbs up, or share it with somebody you think might enjoy the content. I will see you back very soon. Thank you for watching. It's Bookshlove. Bye.